Hey guys, GhazzyTV here with another build guide showcase video, and today I'm going to show you a Stormbind character. It is a Templar being played as a Hierophant, and before I show you some gameplay footage, I will show you and talk about some of the mechanics surrounding this because it's a bit tricky. And as I play the maps, I'll give you my verdicts of the build and a little bit of a chit chat about it. But without further ado, let's dive into it. And if you like these type of build guides and whatnot, do me a favor. If you want to support the content I create, hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments below what you guys feel about the build and other versions. So, first thing off, I'm not capped in resistances. I'm lacking 2%. This is fixed by my soak. It's not a big deal. I try to keep the budget down the best I could on this build. So I'm not even capped. It's 2% off. Not something I'll notice that much. The mechanics of the build is pretty simple. I am currently using, as you can see here, two different rune blasts, two different Stormbinds, and that is because I am using Spell Totem on my damage. So these two spells, since my Hierophant I'm able to cast two of them, these will apply runes all over the field, and they can be charged up and then exploded. Now, if I use another Stormbind to charge these up, the damage that is happening from the charged version of the runes is actually the ones that are coming from the runes, or the totems in this case. So by having totems applying the runes, I can simply have a separate rune blast approach or Stormbind approach like this, which doesn't even do damage. This one is only there to ramp up the scaling of these runes. That's why we're using Arcane Surge in this one, together with Infused Channeling and Faster Casting, to charge that up much faster. When you're clearing with this build, thanks to Indigen or Indigen, whatever you fucking pronounce that shit, for the most part, I just need to tap it. However, mana is somewhat of an issue, which I will be talking about more in depth after we've shown you the gameplay footage. So mechanically, I will place totems. They will pop mines or runes, which I then tap to explode all of them, but only the ones I'm touching will be scaled up once. If I hover over it, if I channel it, they'll be ramped up even more and then explode even more. The other links I'm using is an Arcane Cloak, which sadly only lasts about 4 seconds, so it's not that big, but it's mainly used for defensive mechanisms, but also for that burst damage versus bosses. So what I do when I pop a boss is I pop my Orb of Storms, I pop my totems, and then before he becomes attackable, if that's the case, then I pop the Arcane Cloak and then charge it up and explode, and I will do the most damage before the Arcane Cloak goes away. Anything else I need to bring in? I got a Wave of Conviction on cast damage taken with connectivity. The Orb of Storms is linked with Archmage because I have so much mana, so I have Archmage on it to scale that mana up as well. Other than that, it's All Righteous Fire for extra burst damage versus bosses, and the rest is pretty generic. So this is a level 88 character. I've stripped off a lot of the HP nodes to get more damage. It's felt a bit smoother to play with. I'm going to show you a tier 16 Malformation, and then I'm going to do my first Elder with this just to show you how the boss damage is on this specific build. Granted, you can do much more damage with proper currency investment. This is a very cheap approach. So my problem with this build is pretty straightforward. It's clunky. It looks clunkier than it feels, I can tell you that much. So as you can see here now, these will place runes on the field, and if I just tap them once, everything will explode. So basically I do that, and what you'd have to do to play this is kind of walk around your totems. Place the totems, tap them up, and most rares should die even in low budget by just tap firing on the runes to explode them. But it is very clunky because of the way the build is played, because you have to place the totems, then you have to wait for them to explode or to be placed before you can pop them. And that's really frustrating, but it looks much clunkier than it actually feels. But there's a little bit of a delay between the totems being cast before the runes are being applied on the field, and then you tap fire and the things should die. That's how it's supposed to be played, at least. I am using things like Concentrated Effect on this because of the mere fact that I am actually scaling everything with the use of Heralds. Sorry, not Heralds, Impulsa, which has a Herald-like effect of exploding shocked enemies. So they will explode, as you can see, and that's from the Impulsa chest piece, which is rather cheap this league, and should be considered a low-budget build option, or build chest piece in general. I haven't had any issues with Delirium with this build whatsoever. If I feel that I need more damage, then I've simply just been able to charge up the runes a little bit more. I can show you how that looks right here. I'll place the totems down and then charge them up and then explode. Everything should die just as tap firing. So that's basically how it looks. But as you can see, these runes, they kind of cover a large area. And I can just tap fire once and all of them will explode. Let's not die to that. So that's basically how it feels to play it. If you want to charge them up, you have to like target where you want the runes to be charged up, which is only happening a 3x3 grid around where you're targeting. So that's basically how I'm playing the build. It's really straightforward. Okay, I didn't place a rune in between there. That's another issue. As you can see here now, there is no runes being placed here, which is another really, really annoying issue with this build. No runes whatsoever is applied here, which is frustrating. So there's a few issues with it. In general, open area maps feels kind of fine to play with, mainly for the simple fact that your runes gets to cover such a large area, which tight corner maps like this one, for example, or cells map or any maps with the corridors, for example, can be very frustrating, mainly because of the simple fact that enemies can be on an area where the runes are not being reached by your totems casting, because they only target within line of sight. So that's the issues with it. It has been fun to play, I have to admit. It has been fun to play because it's a very different play style, but due to the clunkiness of the build, it's making me feel disheartened or discouraged to continue playing it. I personally will not be continuing Stormbind during this league, and I'm hoping that they're going to do some changes to it, but it's definitely a functional build, so if you want to do something very different, this is definitely an option to do so. And yeah, this is it. And then I will show you the boss damage, where I will put everything up, pop everything, and then... oh, forgot the totems. And then start channeling. As you can see, the damage is not horrible. Definitely could be better. Totem's dead. You have to play some new ones. They die, and he's done for. So that's basically how the boss damage feels with this type of gear. I haven't invested too much currency into it. Some of the items have been with good rolls, but it's not a big deal. I did try to play this without the Indigen, which is what burns the mana, because if you're casting too much within the last 4 seconds, you bring up the mana cost to be quite drastic. Obviously, you'll do more damage with your other abilities, but I've felt that it's been very lackluster in terms of performance. So I tried doing it without the Indigen, and the problem with that cost was that my damage was significantly lowered, and I didn't like that approach whatsoever. So I went back to using the Indian helmet anyways, despite it not being the best approach for it. So this is my single target on an Elder fight in this current situation. Make sure that I have the totems being placed. Just dodge this. And then it's going to do that shit. Other than that, it's pretty chill, to be honest. It's not very hard. It's really annoying. That's just it. It's just annoying. You see, the damage is definitely there. You have to place versus these fights. You have to place your totems pretty much where he is. Otherwise, the runes will not be going for him. I gotta target this one. Get out of that. So I try to put the totems in the middle. So now we're gonna see this phase. And this is the easier phase. I can just wait for them to place the runes right, and I can just do a spin like this, and everything should drop pretty easily. Because you don't have to kill these portals, but you will do so eventually either way. But no, that's pretty much it. Straightforward, easy to play, easy to understand. Just feels really clunky. Not a big fan of the way the build feels. Obviously, since it's all lightning damage, you get a lot of extra damage from that alone. Charging the runes. You can see the mana going up and down. I'll talk about that on the skill tree in a bit as well. So it was easy when there was 2 portals. Now that there's multiple portals, then I have to actually target every corner, make sure they die. On kill effect, I have a node called Mind Drinker from the skill tree that gives me the mana percent regen per per kill, which is a percent of my max mana, which is actually something that made clearing feel much better. So I didn't have to worry too much about mana because of that, so that felt a lot better to play with. You see here, they don't actually reach all the way, and here we have the big approach, and that is the boss. And as you can see, the damage we're doing, single target, feels pretty okay despite the lack of damage, and that is mainly done through the effect of shotgunning or collateral splash effect from multiple sources of these runes exploding on top of the boss. So, oh, hello. So that's pretty nice in that sense. What else do we get? Crash loot. Alright, so that's basically how the build performs in both single target as well as clearings. It's not bad, it just feels very clunky. And the duel was a critical strike chance affected by Wrath and hits Intimidate with Pride. I'm actually not sure if that's worth anything, we'll have a look at that later. So again, placing totems, letting them cast the runes, charge them up. Usually a tap firing them is enough to kill everything. Granted, if you put a little bit more currency into the build compared to the PoE that is linked in the description below, would be able to just do that much more smoothly. Delirium is not really that much of an issue. Delirium bosses, however, in maps have been somewhat not hard. They've always been tough, but they've been pretty resilient since the damage from this is not great for bosses and it's not great for mapping. It's like a build that's half-assed on every aspect. So I'm going to talk about, show the PoB and talk about the tree and all the details, including the gear. So basically, I'm sure you can level with this. However, I did respec the character, so I would recommend leveling with something like Ball Lightning or Arc Mines instead till you feel ready to switch over to this. And what I did was I spec'd out of this node up here. However, when I leveled, I would suggest spec'ing the elemental damage route out here. And then basically this side here is only for totems and getting HP. So I would skip this when in the early stages when you're leveling and pick up both Light of Divinity and Holy Dominion and move over for Quick Recovery, Mind of Matter. Essence Extraction is only there to help further emphasize the efficiency versus bosses where you don't always have ads spawning, so you can get some extra mana fast. You can kill Awakener, for example. Plus 30 Dexterity, that was needed depending on your gear, but you're gonna need a little bit of Dexterity. You need 116. My character has 126 now. And then going for the totem nodes here, which is to increase the critical strike chance of it, and I'm oiling the arcane potency. Picking up life and extra resistances from Cruel Preparation, Deep Thoughts for the sake of mana, for the sake of both Mind and Matter, Arcane Cloak, as well as the Archmage Orb of Storms. Crit nodes into life, as well as picking up Mystic Bulwark and Prodigal Perfection does a lot in terms of damage output. Obviously going in for Arcane Will and Arcane Focus. I have 1500 Energy Shield right now, so it's like a buffer. Keep in mind though, that Mind Over Matter does not work on Energy Shield, so basically my effective HP pool with this is a 30% Mind Over Matter. So my life pool is actually 3,920. Well, first you have to calculate how much Mind Over Matter does, and a 30% Mind Over Matter with the basic algebra is 3 divided by 7, so that's 428. 3,920 multiplied by 1.428. So I have 5,600 HP because my mana is definitely sustaining the Mind Over Matter, which you calculate this way. So I need 1,600 or 1,700 unreserved mana, which I absolutely already have. So I have a 5.6k HP plus my buffer of 1,500 energy shield. So it's only about 7,000 energy shield, which can definitely get higher. Again, low budget approach to the build. So the energy shield will first deplete and then Mind Over Matter kicks in to actually be useful. So I picked up Arcane Will and Arcane Focus for this specific reason, and then I went for Nimbleness, giving me some cast speed to charge up things faster, as well as movement speed and critical strike multiplier. I went for Aqueous Accelerant, again, to increase the mana recovery rate. That's the big thing here. That's why you can use something like a Watcher's Sign. I'm not sure if I actually did put one. I don't think it did. No, it did actually. We have a Watcher's Sign here that has a mana recovery rate while affected by Clarity. It's actually not that expensive to purchase. You only want the mana recovery rate while affected by Clarity. You can get other approaches that gives you some more damage, like Clarity, Energy Shield, or Discipline, and all these things as well, which would require you to reserve more mana. It's up to you, but this is how I did it with a lower budget approach. Obviously picking up Crackling Speed for the same reason. Critical Strike Multiplier, extra lightning damage. Throat Seeker for a Critical Strike Multiplier. Tons of damage from these nodes. Life into Doomcast through the Crit Multi route to get, again, more damage. Cold calculation through crit nodes through assassination and trickery to get more HP. And then the important part for the sake of increasing the efficiency or quality of life for you for clearing is lethal assault into Mind Drinker. Now this one gives me 2% of mana on kill, and I have 4.4 thousand mana, actually 4.7k with the reservation included. So 2% of that is regenerated or recovered every time I do a kill, which is very, very nice. Ascendancy nodes is also pretty straightforward. There's two different variations you can do here. First one is going Divine Guidance and then rushing Pursuit of Faith into Ritual Awakening, allowing you to have double totems for more runes being applied faster, and also the totem placement speed is 50% increase there, and you get 100% totem duration here, as well as cast attacks when you have totem up and all of these things, which is really, really good. The variation comes to the last end. I decided to go for Conviction of Power because then I get free endurance charges, I get free power charges, I don't have to have other means to apply it, such as a Orb Storms having power charge and crit with the increased critical strike chance support, for example. So instead I'm only using Conviction of Power. The other approach would be to use Sanctuary of Thoughts. This would move your Mind Over Matter approach to from 30 to 40%. Basic algebra calculation. Means you take 4 divided by 6, which is a 66% effective HP calculation. So on my mana pool, sorry, my HP pool of almost 4k, I would require 2.6k mana, which I have, on top of the fact that I would actually get more energy shield from this, which is also another defensive mechanism. And my EHP would instead be 8,000 plus whatever extra energy shield I would get from speccing this. However, this one reduces mana cost of skills and also less mana reservation, but that's whatever. So the mana cost of skills for this would obviously cause the issue of lowering the initial start of your Indigon's approach of giving you more damage, as well as Arcane Cloak, as well as Orb Storm's Archmage style. So it's a bit of a matter of taste. I think both can work very well. I prefer Conviction of Power myself, though. So that's basically the tree, and it's very generic and straightforward. Last but not least, I would go in for survivability of your totems, because something I had a lot of issues with was placing my totems on top of enemies rather than on the side of them. Because if I place them on harder rolled maps on top of enemies, sometimes the totems could die even with these nodes, and that was frustrating. But it's a matter of getting used to it. I did spec 2 points to get 40% mana regeneration and went through the life nodes to pick up the Battle Rust, which gives me damage taken gain as mana over 4 seconds when I'm hit on top of extra mana. Pantheons, matter of personal taste, do whatever you want there. Bandits, kill them all. And we're going to move over to skills before talking about the items. So basically, the Stormbind totems is a spell totem, Stormbind, infused channeling, lightning penetration, and awaken add lightning. And I am using concentrated effect because I'm using an impulse up. You could use something else if you want to further emphasize the damage, but instead of going for less AoE, you can have a little bit less damage but bigger area coverage. It's a matter of personal taste. I prefer this way myself. A low level caster damage taken with a Connectivity and Wave of Conviction on low level, just to have a little bit of extra damage, even if the Wave of Conviction, the Connectivity is not very good. Since we're scaling a lot of lightning damage, Wave of Conviction will be applying lightning exposure on the enemy, dropping their resistances by 25%. Vault Righteous Fire, very simple. It's not being calculated here because that's inflated numbers, so I don't do that, so I don't have them enabled. But Vault Righteous Fire for burst extra damage with increased duration support gems. Orb Storms, like I mentioned before, Archmage added lightning penetration just for some extra damage. It's pretty solid to clear some extra things that you might have missed. So just pop Orb Storms and just keep running and it will kill whatever is in the background. You could change this if you change your Ascendancy nodes to a Curse and Hit approach, Power Charge on Crit. There's a lot of different options you can do to get more damage on your main ability through changing the Orb Storms. Even including a Golem. And then the Runebind, or the Rune Blast. This is the Stormbind that I'm using to apply Arcane Surge, Infused Channeling, as well as faster casting to charge my runes up. And then last but not least, we have a Clarity, Second Wind with Dash, and an Arcane Cloak. However, I could change the efficacy here and put Arcane Cloak in here instead, which would obviously give me a longer duration on the Arcane Cloak, which I probably should, but this is how I tried to build out from the start. Items. Very straightforward. Life Flask, Diamond Flask, and Enduring Mana Flask are very important. Quicksilver and a Wise Soak, which means it's very important that the highest resistance I have would be lightning resistances. I have a Stygian Vice Belt with Life of Mana. I think it's better I show you the in-game ones. life mana and some resistances on the belt, which actually could change to fix the lightning the fire res, if I'm going to be picky about it. Boots, very generic, life, resistances, movement speed, and in this case I also have an enchant giving me lightning damage if you haven't killed anything recently. Since my totems are doing the kills, I can actually utilize this and have that extra damage at all times, which is very, very nice. So that would be a preferable enchant. Glove enchant doesn't matter, I'm using Dotar's Malevolence to up my mana cost for the sake of both the damage application I'm doing with the combination of Indigan, so that I can spend more mana to increase my damage dealt. And this one gives me flat added chaos damage to spells, increased spell damage, but reduces cast speed a little bit. So there's Voidbringer options as well. I prefer to use the Dotar's Malevolence. And as mentioned several times, I'm using an Indigan. I have a Stormbind enchant, not really needed. It does help, it's pretty nice. But in general, you just want to use this one. And this also makes it so that your non-instant mana flask also recovers your life, which allows us to have an enduring mana flask also taking up your life pool. If you're standing in deaging rounds, you're not going to notice that too much. I'm also using a Seer's Foible. This one I put some quality on. They're not very expensive to get unless you're going for the perfect roll. I don't have a perfect myself. Oiled up Arcane Potency, it helps you with mana regeneration. Items and gems have reduced attribute requirements, lowering the dexterity requirement, for example, and strength to make it easier to gear. And I am using an Impulso, like I mentioned earlier during the clearing. We are using a situation where the shock effect or the shocked enemies that you kill will explode and kill enemies around them. And that's why I'm using a concentrated effect in my main links. And let's see, the rings I did craft, added Cold and Lightning to get a little bit of chill effect on the enemies, not really needed. I went for high dexterity with life and resistance and mana roll. I do believe I did the same thing on the other ring, but I didn't get dexterity on it, which is why I was forced to get a plus 30 dex on my skill tree to make room for the attribute requirements. Weapon and shield. The shield is very straightforward. Something that's very important on a lower budget state that's not using something like a very expensive Bottle of Faith is to get your critical strike chance of your spells up. As you can see in the PUB, with the Diamond Flask running, I had about 82% effective crit chance. That's why it's very important to get a high increased critical strike chance for spells on your shield with life, mana, and res. They're not very expensive at all, very cheap to get. Weapon, it's the exact same thing there. Added flat lightning damage to spells, increased spell damage, mana if you can, and then in this case I even got a little bit of rest, which was nice, but most importantly, increased critical strike chance for spells. And that pretty much sums up this entire build. It looks clunkier than it feels. It still feels clunky. I felt that it was mediocre in clear speed. It was also mediocre in terms of bossing. I think that investing a bit more currency into a build like this can make bossing with this a lot better, but most importantly, it can be a lot more fun. But for a low budget point of view, I've had a lot of fun trying this out. It was a very new and unique playstyle, which I enjoyed a lot. But the clunkiness got to me after 2 days of playing this build. So if you want to play, be prepared for that. It's fun, doesn't cost too much. Try it out. If you don't like it because of the clunkiness, sell all the gear and move on to the next build, and that's about it. Last but not least, I think I should mention the jewels I have does have life and mana plus some sort of extra damage to spells one way or another. I do believe I only have that jewel on the tree right now anyways. Alright, that's pretty much it. Obviously you'll see more build guides content coming out on this channel, some more crafting videos. I'll stream live on Twitch 5 to 6 times a week. Do check out my schedule, which is visible in my Discord server in the scheduled chat channel. And for those of you who don't know, my channel is back up and running officially now. However, my old videos are not able to be recovered. I am currently spending every night after streams to go through my old videos to see which ones are still relevant. That is combined with a written forum thread that I will be re-uploading on this channel within the coming days, or the coming weeks at least. So anyways, hit me up in the comments below, like, subscribe, and comment for more content. Until next time, stay safe, keep rocking.